Hey YouTube, Jewelboy here. So chapter 841 of One Piece has dropped. So check out that chapter because I will be spoiling it. And now that you have, let's begin. I honestly believe, guys, that this is a perfect chapter. One of the best that Oda has ever written. Now, he's written quite a few that are just perfect tier, but this is one of them, and I enjoyed it so much. The feels, guys. The feels. I am now 100% totally bought in to the conflict that is going to happen versus the Vinsmoke. The way Judge Vinsmoke seemingly didn't care what happened to Sanji, how he met Sanji and was just with a completely bland face, what are you doing here? You certainly seem to have lost your manners. Why would I care if you left? These moments just really touched my soul, honestly. I feel really bad for Sanji in a way that I'm not sure I can describe in words. Being ignored is far worse than being hated. This expression is absolutely perfect in this situation. And so I think this flashback is for all those people out there who really felt like that they never lived up to the expectations of their parents, specifically with siblings that they may feel like have earned the support and recognition of their loved ones while they feel excluded and overlooked. This flashback perfectly sets up what will happen in the future when Sanji rises above his brothers and then specifically meets Judge in the face as the greatest of his creations, the one creation that he threw away. I almost pity Judge more than I pity Sanji. And so now let's talk about Sanji's mother. And so there is actually something related to a theory that I want to get into, but before I do, I just want to say that this moment where Sanji's mother eats his horribly awful food that had been trampled on and destroyed and rained on, and then with a smile said it was delicious, my god, this woman is amazing. But you guys gotta keep in mind that we still don't know everything about her story. Specifically, there are very important details missing that I think may be important still to the flashback, which might be covered in the future, at least I still hope. Which is that she's sick, but why is she sick? And then Judge Vinsmoke sends her out into a ward far away from her children and Judge, which really puts into question the fact that she's Sanji's mother in the first place. But again, this could just be a representation of Judge's personality trait of throwing away those who have no value. And so it was confirmed as well in this chapter, in my opinion, given her, Oda showed her gravestone, that she did in fact die at some point in time. And so this would obviously have been before Sanji was put into a cage, etc. And so I'm just going to share this thought with you, and I'm sure a lot of people will have it, is, you know, Judge throws away those who don't have any value to him. Did Judge in some way kill Sanji's mother? And so it'd be difficult to prove this at this point in time, given that we don't have a lot of details. And then Judge specifically said that he doesn't want to personally kill Sanji, despite the fact that he would honestly prefer it if Sanji just died, which would also put into question him killing his wife as well, or the mother of his children. But again, I think that there is also potentially reason to believe this is possible as well, so I guess we will just have to wait and see if there's more to this story. But anyway, and this actually relates to the theory that I made just the other day about Sanji and potentially explaining his powers and his siblings' powers as having their genetics spliced with the genetics of a devil fruit. If you haven't checked out that theory, I suggest that you do. It's been pretty well received. But that aside, one of the most important details that really adds to this theory is the fact that Sanji and his siblings all have swirly eyebrows, which could have potentially been related to their genetics being spliced with the genetics of a devil fruit, which a devil fruit's defining characteristic is the spiral. And so we haven't actually seen Judge's eyebrows yet. He actually wears a helmet. So it makes me wonder, does Judge Vinsmoke have swirly eyebrows? And then actually, to add to this, from this chapter, we see Sanji's mother. Sanji's mother does not have swirly eyebrows. This was not a trait that they inherited from Sanji's mother, which was what I was honestly hoping for in regards to that theory. And so now all we would need is for Judge Vinsmoke to not have those swirly eyebrows, for it to be really, really supported that Sanji is in fact part devil fruit. But as a side note, it doesn't necessarily disprove the theory if Judge does have swirly eyebrows, because he could have also in some way genetically enhanced himself. Now, I'm not saying that that's likely. It would definitely be a downer for the theory, but it is also possible. But if he doesn't have the swirly eyebrows, that would hugely support the theory. And so the last thing that I really want to talk about in regards to the flashback, it is now confirmed. You heard it. Confirmed. Reiju is a good character. She is a friend. There is no doubt about it. She can be a little bit hard at times, but she definitely cares deeply about Sanji, and this adds so much more meaning to those initial panels that we saw with Sanji and his sister, and Reiju commenting on how tough his body was, and just preening over him. Just looking back at those scenes now, they honestly give me much more emotional feeling than they did at the time, knowing that Reiju has all along been rooting for Sanji. But there's an interesting question related to the relationship between Reiju and Sanji, and the fact that they can actually feel emotions such as pity, which, according to Reiju, is not present in the other brothers, that their genetic enhancements specifically took away their emotions such as empathy and pity. And so why is this not the case for Sanji? Why is this not the case for Reiju? Why is Sanji a failed experiment? He is clearly different than all of his other brothers, and I really want to know at this point in time why that is the case. What went wrong? Or actually, what went right? There's some people out there speculating that Sanji is the one true, real child of Judge Vinsmoke, and then the other brothers are just like clones or something else, test tube babies. And so I don't believe in this theory. They're all quadruplets. They're all identical twins. And Sanji is the third born. And so if Sanji were to be the one true child, then we shouldn't expect him to be in the middle. We should expect him to be either first, or it's not even possible for him to be last. He would have to be first for that really to make sense. So I just don't believe that theory. But there is some answer to the question of why Sanji is different. And I'm very certain that we will find the answer to this. But now guys, the beginning of this chapter had so much feels. But the end of this chapter was just a perfect complement to the beginning, because at the end we got laughs to counteract the despair that was the first half of this chapter. And so in the second half of this chapter, we got what happens between Luffy and Cracker after the last time that we saw them battling. And my god, the theories were right. There was actually people, at least 10, maybe even 20 people in my comment section who said that, well, Cracker creates biscuits, right? So couldn't Luffy just eat the biscuits? And lo and fucking behold, that is exactly what he did. I can't believe it. I can honestly say, guys, that I read those comments, and my thought was, well, this seems possible, but I just don't believe that it's true, and so I failed you. And so I do want to say this though, which is I made two theories. The first theory was that Cracker was already defeated. And I said this because Luffy was in Gear 4th. The last time that we saw Luffy's Gear 4th run out, he had no energy. He was just completely done for. He couldn't even move himself. He had to be carried around by the citizens of Dressrosa and then Law in order to avoid Doflamingo. But seemingly in this situation, Gear 4th has clearly run out. He is no longer in Gear 4th. Yet Cracker was not able to defeat him during that time in which he had no energy, or there was never a time like that to begin with. And honestly, this doesn't make any sense to me. We're missing something. Like based on what we already know, this completely breaks the logic of Gear 4th. So really the only answer that I have potentially for this is that Luffy's Gear 4th ran out. He ran out of energy, and Cracker literally just sat down and waited for him to get back to normal without actually doing any additional damage to him. Which again doesn't make any sense, but that's really the only answer that I have. And so my second theory focused on how Luffy would actually defeat Cracker, and given that Cracker isn't defeated yet, that theory is still in play. But to be honest with you, from this chapter, I get more of the impression that this has become a war of attrition. Luffy says that basically Cracker's stamina at some point will run out, and I think that this is the kind of thing that could be potentially foreshadowing to what actually happens. So, you know, maybe that ends up happening. Luffy just continues to eat his biscuits until Cracker literally is exhausted and then collapses. This is a serious downer, honestly, for those looking for an epic battle between a Yonko commander and Luffy. Like, initially it seemed like it was going to turn into one of those fights, which is why my theories really gave more of that impression, but now Oda has turned this into a complete joke. And so guys, I'm honestly fine with it from a comedic standpoint, but for him to really paint a Yonko commander in this sort of light, that the fight can be treated like a joke, you know, is this, I didn't see this happening at all. But then again, the last Yonko commander that we saw get defeated also really ended up being a joke, with Jack getting one-shotted by the giant elephant Zunisha. So in essence, what happened to Jack is essentially happening in the fight versus Luffy versus Cracker, which is that if Luffy is going to end up defeating Cracker just based on simply eating his biscuits, then both of these fights really turned out to be much more of a joke than people really expected. But at the rate Luffy is going, I do think that events may progress within the marriage between Pudding and Sanji, to the point to where Luffy might not actually make it to the wedding in time to intercept this marriage. It's been 11 hours and counting. The kind of strategy that he's using to take on Cracker is not the most time efficient one, and so time is ticking. But still, an excellent chapter. Enjoyed every aspect of it. Even though it wasn't what I expected, I still enjoyed it. But let me know what you thought about the chapter. Let me know if you noticed anything about the chapter, any details that I haven't noticed, and share it in the comment section. Like the video if you liked the video. I'd appreciate it if you subscribed, and as always, dudes, have a wonderful day.